You're listening to the Chris or Jenny Show featuring Deej on WCOMLP, Chapel Hill, and Carborough.
Good evening, friends. Good evening, Deej.
Good evening, Christopher.
What is going on, my brother?
And not much. It's good to be here. Good to be in Carborough. I always love coming back here. I lived here for such a long time, and then I moved to Durham, and I love Durham too, but I don't know. There's just something about Carborough. It just feels like home or something. I don't know. I love coming back.
One thing I can tell you for sure, Carborough loves you.
Yeah.
Coming here. And we just heard the sunny side of the street. And let me tell you why I played that, Deej. Because tonight's guest, my friend Aristotle Jones, that's exactly where you'll find that man, on the sunny side of the street.
Yeah.
Let's welcome him in. Aristotle, can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Yeah, baby. What's going on?
Yeah. Oh, man, I'm just sitting up here in Morgantown, West Virginia with my dog Oscar, just enjoying a nice Friday night.
Yeah.
How are you guys? Was it Carborough? Is
Yeah.
that where you're hanging out? Car and then Borough together?
Yeah, named after Julian Shakespeare Carr, C-A-R-R. It's his borough.
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he didn't want a town or like a pike or something like that. He wanted a borough.
Yeah, there's a lot of boroughs around here.
Who decided things were going to be boroughs or tons or vills or like how does one get one of those? You know,
I've wondered that. Well, Carr, I believe he just founded it. Although no, he didn't.
He founded it.
He didn't found it because it used to be called West End. It was the West End of Chapel Hill, and he annexed it or something. I don't know. I remember it was the wrong side of the tracks.
That's a grown man move right there when you annex stuff.
Yeah.
You don't do that as a child. You're like, hey man, I'm going to annex like the West End.
Yeah, with a name like that, I feel like you gotta annex a bunch of stuff to live up to it.
Well, like Aristotle or Carr?
Well, I was talking about Carr, but yeah, Aristotle. That's it's a lot to live up to. Also.
Well, man, I'm just trying to live up to that guy named Carr, man. I want an Aristotle borough somewhere.
There's a lot of Joneses to live up to, also.
No, man, like the whole Jones family tree is like the trunk of the universe.
Yeah.
Man. it goes straight up. I mean, there's all kinds of Joneses. I mean, like there's fictional Joneses, there's real Joneses, there's Joneses you never heard of, and there's Joneses that have been in outer space. Man, we're all over the place.
Aristotle, man, we are excited to have you on here. So that is your given born name, correct?
Oh yeah, Aristotle Jones. That's right.
How lucky, man! That could have definitely been like a stage name, but that's legit, man. That's how you were born.
Yeah, well, my dad named me after the philosopher Aristotle, and then when I was born, Aristotle Onassis was the shipping magnate, and he was the Jeff Bezos of the time.
Look at you.
And so my dad wanted like a smart, rich son. As you remember, like Aristotle Onassis married like Jackie Kennedy. Now, if you're pulling president's wives, that means you got some swag, man. You ain't just some run-of-the-mill dude. So so he gave me a big name, and he didn't give me a middle name because he thought that was enough.
Speaking of names, DJ, let me tell you, Aristotle is good at naming bands.
Yeah.
Here's the two. He's currently solo, right? Aristotle, you're currently.
That's right. Right now, it's just Aristotle Jones.
But DJ, two bands that he had in the past: Aristotle and the Excellent Lovers.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And Aristotle and the Like Minds.
Okay. Hey, Aristotle, though, if it's you and the Excellent Lovers, though, that kind of makes it seem like you're a bad lover.
See, that was the initial thing. We had that debate when we were forming the name, because it did start off just being the Excellent Lovers, but somehow I got excluded. That's okay, man.
Okay.
I don't know, man. Maybe that was a transcendent move. All of the Excellent Lovers are doing fine. I can give you an update. They're all married or have had very successful relationships, and I'm still very much just Aristotle Jones. So don't worry about it.
Okay.
But now they're probably all in their 40s and 50s, so they're probably at this point they're probably mediocre lovers at best.
That's your reunion
Or
tour.
lucky lovers. They're hoping some loving.
The seldom lovers.
By the way, my brother Lauren is one of the Excellent Lovers.
Yes. I've known your brother since high school. He would sit back and behind me in chemistry class, and then later on he goes, "Man, I just really thought you had a cool mustache."
Yeah.
He goes, "How did you do that?" I mean, I was just barely trying to grow a mustache at the time, so it was an interesting compliment. And then Lauren came in, never seen the guy play drums before.
Oh, he can tear
And
it up.
I'd seen him play bass with a group, and in high school I knew he was like a guitar player, but man, your high school identity and who you really are as a human being sometimes line up and sometimes are very, very off. Yeah, but Lauren, I said, "Hey, man, I'm looking for a drummer." And he goes, "I can play drums." And then he came and played drums for us for a while. And he was working with some other guys, and this is like the early 2000s. So he was into making hip-hop beats out of weird stuff that wasn't like your traditional like beat machine or something like that. So we just kind of bonded over banging on chairs one night, and he was like, "Hey, you're in the band," and we were playing, and man, like Lauren was a great dude to play with, man.
Yeah, he told me kind of getting ready for tonight. Obviously, I caught up with him about you, and he said, he's been grinding and playing music for decades as you have, and he was like, of all the musicians, Aristotle's the one that I've been to war with, kind of mentality. You know what I mean? That's what Lauren said about you.
Oh, yeah. Well, man, like West Virginia is an interesting place to make music. So there's not really a music distribution network, especially like when we were in the early 2000s, like the internet was there, but it wasn't anything like what it was now. So it was still very much, you were to get CDs made or tapes. I remember recording shows on tapes, and we would get gigs, and we would play. You could just feel the momentum kind of growing, and that's what's interesting when you're younger and playing music too, because when you all have time, everything just really works out, and you're like just a group of guys, like you're just going to war, like you're in the zone, everybody's doing their thing, and then either you kind of have that same move together, or something happens, or sometimes it doesn't. But there was this older guy that would hang out with us. That was it was always weird because he was like an older guy hanging out with us. We were in our 20s, and he was probably like my age now, and
it worked in Back to the Future.
I do think we're living in Biff's timeline. From Back to the
absolutely.
Future. That's a whole nother thing.
This is Back to the Future too, like the scary part. Absolutely.
Yeah, the scary part. Yeah, exactly. I think that there's a whole lot to that going on.
Well, hey, it ended well.
Oh yeah. Well, everybody showed back up in the pictures. Have you checked your family pictures lately?
Oh no, geez,
Yeah,
That's a
think
good
about it.
idea.
You got to go
Yeah.
back to the photo albums.
make sure everybody's there. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be funny if like nobody just knew your cousin and you were like
Yeah.
the only ones? Like, where's Fredo?
Oh, geez. But you've been grinding for decades, man, and putting music out there. How did you end up in Morgantown?
Well, that's kind of where like the story goes. Like after I was playing with your brother, well, eventually everybody decided that we were going to take that leap and all find relationships. You know what I mean? And see if we can make it work with like performing and having like girlfriends and long-term relationships, and everything's fun about being in like a band member's girlfriend until like you've seen all the shows and it really gets down to like the work and they're out all night and stuff like that. And so like we didn't know that. We're all young. We're like, yeah, we're gonna do this.
To make it happen.
And
Yeah. Hey, I met my ex-wife. She came to one of my shows and thought I was hot, and
there you go.
that's how we met. Yeah.
that's how you met your ex-wife, right?
Yeah, my ex-wife though. Yeah.
DJ plays bass, by the way.
I'm a bass player. Yeah.
Oh shoot, man! I'll send you some tracks. Let's collaborate.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, what's your main instrument?
I play acoustic guitar and I'm a singer, and I do write most of the material I perform.
Yeah, you're definitely a front man, though. You're the guy, man. You're the guy for sure.
I want to contribute to the world through creativity. That's the best thing you can do for the planet, is just to add some kind of energy to it.
Yeah.
So that's why I like writing songs. It always feels like, you can shift the current of the wind if you
Yeah.
put enough power behind a song or enough emotion,
You're
Yeah.
doing it, man. You're doing, and you got good stuff. I really like your stuff. Again, though, back to how did you land in Morgantown?
So once we all kind of paired up, the girl I was with, she was like, I'm going to go to law school. I'm like, well, great. You're going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be like a rock star. Well, this would be perfect. And so we ended up moving, and essentially we moved to Morgantown, just following a girl.
Yeah.
Up here, I meet some guys, and we formed like minds, and we would travel around. That's kind of how I started building my route into Pennsylvania and towards like Harrisburg and into Maryland, and kind of developing this into my loop. Where when I was in Huntington, I had developed routes into Kentucky and
Right.
through Ohio. So, and it was fun. We were all into the Black Keys at the time.
From Akron, Ohio?
When you're hanging out with a group of guys and they're all listening to the same music, and it's like you could feel like a new kind of energy bubbling up. I was also big into like the jam music scene.
Yeah.
So I was taking like the funkier stuff I did with like the Excellent Lovers, adding a little bit more rock to it, but then adding a little, kind of getting influenced by like, because we were touring with up here in Morgantown, just outside town, there would be a big festival called All Good. And they would
I've heard
bring
of
in,
Yeah.
123 Pleasant Street would always, that's such a crazy stage because if anybody like coming up was touring the East Coast and came through Morgantown, they had played on there. So you had people like Red Hot Chili Peppers that came in the past, or even just while I played there, bands we've opened up for would be like Ivan Neville, like the Main Squeeze, like Larry Keel. It's just like tons of really cool artists that come through, and you end up meeting and connecting with it because it's like a Tuesday night show here.
I'm a Larry Keel fan, by the way. I know who you're talking about.
There's lots of really cool artists that you run into that would be playing much larger venues.
Yeah.
Other than
Right.
they're just kind
No, I
of
get
here
it.
right now.
I get it. So in West Virginia, there's two major universities, WVU, which is in Morgantown, and then Marshall, which is in our hometown of Huntington.
Yeah.
So Aristotle, you probably know a lot of people who either love one and hate the other or vice versa. But then,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't call it a direct rivalry, but there's definitely a thing between Marshall folks and WVU folks. Aristotle, you've navigated it. Like, I assume you've got to have friends on both sides of that.
I do. I operate on both sides of it because I graduated from WVU, but my parents both work and are now retiring from working at Marshall University. And I grew up in a lot of this. I spent tons of time on Marshall's campus.
Well,
man.
you answered.
That was a good time.
Yeah, you answered one of my questions too. So you went to Huntington High. If you knew
Yeah.
my brother in high school. Okay. So yeah, I'm with you, man. There's a classification of us that unless we're playing each other in a sport, I want Marshall to win. But otherwise, I want good things to happen in Morgantown. I want good things to happen at WVU. You know what I'm saying?
You know what it is, man, and I'll clue you in. After having lived up here, because I've been up here for about 12 years.
Right.
A lot of people that go to WVU aren't specifically from Morgantown.
Right.
Or from West Virginia, where a lot of people that go to Marshall are from Southern West Virginia.
Right.
So I think Marshall fans are more likely to root for WVU overall than WVU fans are to root for Marshall because there's something about it that's like you can have a Morgantown WVU experience really having gone south of here too far.
Several of my best friends went to WVU. The sense I get is just like Marshall is just kind of like the little brother, kind of the pest, so to speak. Yeah. But whatever, you and I are.
Hey, man, but I tell you what, man, Marshall, honestly, like, if you have ever been in Huntington or rooted for Marshall, you're like, this is what's going on, man. This is like, that's a team that's got heart. But it's just, never really got respect. We were winning national championships. It was just like one AA national championships or like a lower division. But like here's a typical WVU season. We'll get to the end of October. We'll be like gaining some steam. We'll look like we're going to do something, and then we'll just tank this season. And then everybody's just full. Because it's like a little bit of hope that you get. And basketball's the same way, too, man. Like, and every once in a while, we'll get really, really, really close.
But WVU does play the best. They do play.
It's elite stuff.
Yeah, they play hard teams. Okay, WVU Marshall play basketball next year. Aristotle Jones, who do you pick?
Head-to-head, man. If there wasn't any consequences as far as like rankings or like WVU's like not ranked number 2, if it's just like basketball team out, I'd love to see Marshall handle WVU. That'd be fun.
I knew there was.
But it's always weird because it's like, man, it's like they played in the tournament. Well, was it last year or year before?
2 years
and
ago.
And you're like, 2 years ago. I wanted Marshall to win, but at the same time, I'm like, well, man, Marshall will just get beat next week. So, I want WVU win because they were going to go. I thought they would go farther.
They blew us out in the tournament, but that was a good answer, though.
Yeah. I bet it's hard because, I'm like you, man. I want to see anything in the state kind of get some attention for the state. I think it's a good positive thing.
That's cool.
My mind gets tired sometimes. Sometimes my body gets weak. And the demons that I fight, they start to conquer me. And I say, oh, my soul, I pray that rock and roll will be my savior. And I'm just struggling to get out what is in my mind. Cause the righteous path is the hardest one to find. And they gotta get away from you. Gotta get away from me. Gotta stay away from us. And who do you trust? No one knows who to turn to for love. Gotta get away from here. And they gotta stay away from there. And nobody cares and everyone's scared to love. Daydream sometimes, and I get surprised. Open up my eyes and see the sun shining warm and bright. And I reach up just to make her mine. I say, oh, my soul, I pray that rock and roll will be my savior. Oh, and I'm just struggling to get out what is in my mind. And I say, oh, dear Lord, please forgive me for my bad behavior, cause the righteous path, is the hardest one to find. And they gotta get away from you. And they gotta get away from me. And they gotta stay away from us. Now who do you trust when no one knows who to turn to for love? Gotta get away from here. And they gotta stay away from there. And nobody cares and everyone's scared to love. And they gotta get away from you. Gotta get away from me. Gotta stay away from us. And who do you trust? No one knows who to turn to for love. Gotta get away from here. And they gotta stay away from there. And nobody cares, everyone's scared to love. I say, oh, my soul, I pray that rock and roll will be my savior. Oh, Lord, let it be my savior. And I'm just struggling to get out what is in my mind, my mind. And I say, oh, dear Lord, please
stuff.
Yeah, that's a great tune, man.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
one thing I was curious about. So they call you the Appalachian Soul Man.
The Appalachian Soul Man.
What makes a song soul? So I hear that church organ in the beginning. I hear kind of a distinctive bass line, kind of spiritual, lyrical elements. What goes into a bass song for you?
Well, man, like on the soul aspect of it, and I distinctly view it as like Appalachian soul being a bit different than just your general like soul genre. It's in the hills and hollers. The music's different in kind of like every little pocket. So like as I've traveled around and I've listened to kind of like some of the common threads, and I saw how people were making music, like there is like a community music that's going on that kind of has a lot of like it tells a story or paints a picture or takes you to another place, like connects with your soul. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, so like not specifically like the music itself, with the instrumentation that makes it soulful, but it's the power within the song and the delivery that makes it soulful,
Right.
And that's kind of like the basis of where a lot of my music is rooted from. It's because it's all. I mean, I write from an acoustic guitar, know. So when I sit down and make a song and I really feel it, and then I look around and the cat stopped and the dog stopped, and and then I'm like, okay, this has a groove to it. But I will tell you this: over the last 3 years prior to this, I was staying with my grandfather. He was a coal miner by day and a farmer. We had a 102-acre farm just over the border in Smithfield, Pennsylvania.
Cool.
And he was like an old school gospel singer. He had this group called the Gospelairs. And they would
the Gospelairs
get together with their matching suits and
nice, that's awesome.
And they'd part their hair and do all this stuff, and then they would travel from because the churches were segregated. You know what I mean? Like even more so than now. Like so, there would be like a whole different side of the Appalachian experience, other than kind of what we're usually taught.
Yeah.
And so it was the same kind of instrumentation, the same type of vibe, but in celebrating the same types of things. My granddad, they would have like tent revivals, and he would go there with his group, and that was just the 50s and 60s and 70s. So that wasn't really that long ago.
Right.
And so I get a lot of my influence in my music from my time spending with him. And even before that, like growing up and making kind of like that soulful, bluesy, spiritual, connective, storytelling type of music.
And you know what? You really do play every little nook and cranny in West Virginia. Like I was looking at your tour, which you're the artist that I'm upset about who's not getting to tour right now, because you had a sweet tour planned. But some of these, like obviously, Morgantown, Huntington, Charleston, but you're playing Philippi, West Virginia. You're playing Coleridge, West Virginia. You're playing Terra Alta, West Virginia. Parts of Maryland, parts of Pennsylvania, like you said. But you really are playing all over the state, man.
Yeah, well, the idea for me, people get it. When they hear it and they see it, they understand like there's a connection to it. So a broad range of people enjoy it.
Yeah.
And what's really nice about West Virginia, like I say, if it were a flatter state, the music scene would be thriving.
Yeah.
The musicians could get everywhere. But there's these little pockets and these little communities of kind of like hippies or progressives or just people that enjoy live music. And so you go to these places, and they're like very thriving, vibrant people that are they just wanted to live in like rafting communities, and they're touristy places. So you get really good crowds. And
I know. Yeah.
And
I know what you're talking about.
And I'm not scared to travel, but that's also how you get your good stories too. It's like every West Virginia artist is doing it, or really even some of the major artists that you like, the Avett Brothers. Have you ever heard of those guys?
Oh, of course, yeah.
They would travel a lot of those roads and just play wherever they could play and build fan base as you go along.
Oh yeah, we know they're huge in North Carolina. I was surprised because what should have been your schedule for 2020. I'm so disappointed it wasn't. But I didn't see one venue that I love. Now I know it's a tiny venue, but have you ever heard of the Purple Fiddle?
Purple Fiddle, yeah.
Of course you have. Well, I'm surprised. Have you ever played there?
In Thomas, yeah.
Thomas, West Virginia.
The whole idea is like there's a whole second leg of
tour.
And that's what's kind of like. I was talking to a friend earlier today, and you get those Google alerts on your phone, and because your calendar, and they're like, "Oh, you're supposed to be here at this date," or like negotiations, and you might have their conversation. They just fell right off, you know.
It's our gang because we get to have you on the show. You'd be playing a gig right now, probably. You'd be on the road
Oh yeah,
right
well,
now.
I tell you what, man. Like, you know what's nice is there is a lot of camaraderie, and when you do get to perform out in front of people, everybody's fans are listening and craving content, and artists are innovating, and everybody's thinking about new ways to connect. There's really nothing that's the same as being in the same room and feeling the vibration of the speakers and seeing everybody's faces when you're playing. There's not really much you can separate from that. That's kind of where the live shows just kind of like if you're performing.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you're the internet live shows. They don't hit you, even though you still have that experience. Man, there is that spiritual connection that we all have from communal focus.
Yep.
At a concert that just kind of that makes it magical, and the lights and the heat and and the harmonies in those moments when we're all singing along and the lead singer's not singing and we can just kind of transcend. You just don't get those moments like this. But there's also new and innovative ways. I have some projects coming into work to create some new videos. I'm working with different broadcasting networks to take, instead of just doing like live shows, to do like syndicated in some different markets. So things are actually growing in new ways for me. And I wouldn't have had that time to focus on that aspect of growth that can, once we can get back out and travel, I wouldn't have had that opportunity. For
I hear what you're saying.
Like, when's the last time I had a year off to my voice feels comfortable. I'm not like cranky because like I'm working all the time or like I'm eating better, like, so there's definitely some positive things.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
When you're writing a song, do you kind of start out with a melody or kind of a feeling, or do you write chords? Do you, where do you usually start out?
It starts off with like a very like uneasy feeling a few days before. Like I start getting kind of uncomfortable, like in my mind. I don't really know what's happening.
Uneasy, yeah.
But I know there's something that's kind of like bubbling up to.
You feel it brewing or something.
It's just kind of like an intuition.
Okay, yeah. So something's inside of you and has to come out somehow, and you got to figure that out.
And I got to figure out what it is. And so like it just really depends on the song. In the past, like since acoustic guitar was my primary instrument, I would sit down and just hang out, watch some TV, see if something inspired me, maybe watch the news or watch something, and just kind of like try to drift away and see if something really like stimulated me. But over the last year, my writing process has really changed. Having time and also having a lot more experience, I'm thinking about it and kind of arranging the songs in my head a little bit longer now, like the music to it, and getting the feeling and the vibe for it now. And then I'm writing the lyrics last, where before it was kind of like a simultaneous experience. It might, it might be, it just might be a muse that happened to cross my path in a day, and I sat down to write. But now I'm taking it a few steps longer and letting it mature in my mind. And then kind of like sitting down and tracking the whole thing out from start to finish, and keeping that as a draft, and then listening and going back and revisiting if I want to add a part or change a part. Having a little bit more time and access to technology has definitely changed my writing process.
As a bassist, I pretty much have to learn how to play guitar because, like, you can't really write a song on a bass, like not nearly in the same way.
I don't know. I write some funky bass lines on bass. Like really, like with soul music and some of the stuff that I'm doing, that's the thing that pops in my head. Like I hear the bass line even though I'm playing guitar.
You hear it in your head.
For like
because
the guitar I'm most comfortable with. Well, if I'm just playing the bass line, like I'm not playing a bass too, then it's like, well, I'll put like this: writing lyrics or singing melodies and playing bass. I haven't quite mastered that trick yet.
Yeah, so they've got acoustic basses, like those exist. I haven't really found a use for them. Have you ever played one? Like do you find it as a place in your world?
No, well, man, whenever we first started with the Excellent Lovers, we had a weird configuration. It was just me and two of my buddies, and he had one of those like a little acoustic basses, and we would practice. But man, I just think good dialed in electric bass is probably what you're going to need.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a stand up, like in bluegrass or jazz, or like a really stylized 50s or 60s stylized song. Like you use a stand up bass for that, but like just kind of like the acoustic electric like bass, it's like, kind of like not the best of either world.
Yeah. I always see them at the store, and I'm like, what are these for?
Yeah.
It's like your good idea that just didn't pan out.
Yeah. I will say this, though. We had a guest a couple of weeks back who was stationed in remote Dead Horse, Alaska.
Dead Horse, Alaska. Joe Hauser.
Yeah. So I could see an acoustic bass. You know, you're not necessarily going to be near an outlet. You're kind of sitting around with nothing to do for a long time, just waiting for a polar bear to walk by or whatever they're doing up there.
Right. Yeah, that's it.
2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
That's a good jam right there.
Yeah.
That's Lauren on the drums.
Lauren Amsbury?
I recognize his drumming anywhere.
Yeah. He was a tippy tapper.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's a guitar player. He always understood music, but, Lauren on the drums, and on the back, he did backup vocals. We were over at one of his buddies' house named Mike Turner. He had hooked us up with the producer for that, Mike Turner, and
I know Mike Turner.
and then I had that one of those tracks, and we originally made CDs, and we made them with the stickers. We could burn them on our computer.
Nice.
And that was how that was released. So it never really got like a good release. And I was like, oh man, that's a cool track. I'll put that on this new release that I'm putting out now, and that people can hear it. Because I was like, well, man, could we play it live? And everybody loved it.
It's a great song, man.
You asked earlier about kind of what makes like soul music, and I wouldn't be doing like the state of West Virginia or soulful Appalachian musicians any justice without giving respect to like one of the pioneers, and that's like Bill Withers. You know what I mean? Like that idea of soulful folk music, if that's a good way to put it. Because if you listen to a lot of stuff that he did, it was singing about what it meant growing up in like a rural community and dealing with people as he had to like venture out into the world. And so, as a West Virginian, when I travel around and I go to more and more states and I branch out farther and farther, by the end of the set, people will feel proud to know somebody from West Virginia, because like part of my mission and part of what I do is like, hey man, I want you to have a different experience. You thought it was just a state where you Hatfield McCoys or something else. It's like very limited in your knowledge. I want you to know there's a very diverse group of people making all kinds of music and really talented people there.
Yeah. Obviously, you are West Virginia's favorite son. I mean, you play all over the state. I know you touch Maryland. I know you touch Pennsylvania, but I'm glad to hear you talk about branching out. I'm telling you, man, you would crush it in North Carolina.
Well, part of the second leg of the summer shows was I have do 4 shows down in Nashville. So I spend like Thursday through Sunday down there.
Nice.
And Dave loved it that in Nashville. And so every time I go down and meet new musicians to network with, and what's nice is like when you go to a place where when there's very, very, very talented people, and it's commercial music, and you play something original, and
they love it,
and then people appreciate it, then you're like, yeah, they're on board. But also, I just set up a regular week down in Myrtle Beach, and what I was working for the second half was I was spending a lot of times touring the South. That was the second half, and that was the part I never really got to announce, because I had dates down in Florida and dates in Georgia, and then doing some Myrtle Beach and Charleston, South Carolina, and we were looking for dates in North Carolina. And because for me, like driving in and out's not too bad, but like really getting the chain together when you're an independent booker versus like having a booking agent, still trying to make it so that you can pay the band when you need to, and have lodging, and that's where a lot of acts get overwhelmed. So.
Going solo's had to have helped you a little bit, because like some of your bands back in the day, I remember there was that one gig we'll talk about a little bit in Columbus, Ohio, but there were like 15 people on the stage. I mean, you've had some big bands you've had full brass sections, and
that's still my it's been part of my mission is to always kind of network whenever I get to a town. And so sometimes I go there by myself. That's always a good way to branch out, and it's cheaper to travel by yourself. Yeah. And I have a fuel-efficient car, so I could always throw a small PA and a guitar in there. And if I'm willing to travel 12 hours and get out of the car and play a show, I can make it. Taking the van and all the whole band, it does take a little bit more logistical avenues.
I hope you could replicate this year's schedule next year. And I'm telling you, DJ and I are sitting in our studios connected to a place called the Art Center. I think what's the capacity, DJ? 300 seats probably, give or take?
That's a good guess, yeah.
You would fill the Art Center, I'm 100% sure.
Oh, that would be exciting. Hey, now that you guys said that, you're going to get a phone call and emails, and we'll get that worked out.
DJ knows one of my passions. I love at least talking about booking gigs. Like, I'm all about connecting bands to venues, man. We'll help you any way we can, brother. I promise you that.
What's been really fun about this year that's different, because there were a lot of smaller, like ninja style grassroots shows on the first half of the schedule. And it would build into festivals. And then I also I usually take the month of October off. I'm the entertainment director at a haunted attraction. So it's like a month-long residency at a haunted house called Fright Farm. It's just really fun. So I enjoy doing that.
DJ would enjoy that.
I've worked at haunted houses.
Yeah. You get to be creative and do a lot of different stuff. And that's another thing where it's like we're still trying to figure out if that's even going to happen with COVID.
Get paid to scare the crap out of people?
But what's fun about what I do there is There's 5 different attractions. It's called Fright Farm. It's in Smithfield, Pennsylvania. It's right down the road from where my grandparents' farm was. So it's like backyard stuff. There's 5 attractions. They do like a hayride and a haunted house, and you walk through a graveyard and a corn maze and all this stuff. So, and then there's like what I do, which is called the festival area, and that's just straight up party, man. I'm just like having a ball. I'm there to disarm you before you get your pants scared off and to bring you down easy before you go home.
Yeah. Well, hey, usually scariest thing someone comes up to you in a mask. Now, scariest thing someone comes up to you without a mask.
Oh my God, that's true.
Yeah, you see. So that's what we're trying to figure out how to do, because it's like, I mean, when they do it, they're like, everybody has to wear a mask, and you're like, wait a sec. And people start acting a bit wild.
If you really want to scare people.
It's like the zombie apocalypse without it being zombies. It's just like people are zombies all of a sudden. You're like,
Hey, maybe we were zombies all along.
I wanted to talk about this gig. I was so proud that this thing came together. This is way back in the day, Deej. This is like 12, 13 years ago in Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, yeah, with Greg.
My old stomping grounds.
Aristotle and the Excellent Lovers played a show at Ruby Tuesday, but not like the restaurant Ruby Tuesday, like the bar Ruby Tuesday.
Yeah.
I kind of sort of helped put this together because Lauren was in Aristotle's band. My 2 good buddies, Clint Staley and Sean Nardella, were in a band called Faded 8.
Yep.
And you guys played a show and they played a show. You know, it was full for a small place.
Yeah.
Aristotle, I was so proud that gig came together, and I loved it because I've always promoted Lauren's career. I loved your band, my buddy Clinton Sean's band. So that was one of the most fun nights for me back in the day. I loved that gig.
Man, that was, I'm really grateful for you setting it up, because we were just trying to, whenever you're like, you got a pretty secure fan base in your hometown, you got to try to venture out. And some of the other bigger bands that were, you know, air quote, bigger bands in the area started going up to Columbus. So, you know, we kind of had to like, try to make our mark up there. And then Lauren worked it out, and we, and that's right when we started trying to make that route. It was like, there was a little place in between Huntington and Columbus in Waverly, Ohio. And we kind of went there. And that Waverly, we just got a big PA, and everything's heavy, you know, like it now stuff's light, but back then it was heavy. And they had it was a 2-story staircase that you'd have to haul all your gear up to play on the upper deck of this bar.
For like 20 people.
Okay. And so this girl, they were there, and like, you guys don't need to be playing here. This is a hard gig. You need to get a gig in Columbus. And so when you got us that gig up at Ruby Tuesday, we were stoked.
Yeah, and I remember like you had the whole brass section. You had one of your band members was in a cast, had a leg issue.
Yeah, he was running late, and then we didn't think he was going to come, and then he showed up right there at the last minute, and
that was fun, man.
Yeah, you know, man, and like my buddy Sam. He was the guy who bought the van. So we had a big old, like, 1988 Ford Econoline 350 church van.
Sweet.
So he took out the, the back seats, and so, everybody could pile into the van. And we had Beast was playing, that was our resident conga player, but I was also the guy that would hook up the fun in the party, So he would always sit back in the back and he'd drop his hair down and just rattle it around and play his congas. And the ladies loved Beast, man. And then we had, we had the horn section. And so we're there and we get there and we're all hungry. And so there's this one place we go in, and it was called Taco Ninja.
Oh, yeah.
And, and their slogan is assassinate your hunger.
They assassinate your hunger. That's right.
And so we go into Taco Ninja, and everybody's like, yeah, this is a great idea for a show. Let's eat Taco Ninja. So we all get a bunch of Taco Ninja. So we're leaving after we get done playing, and we're driving back to Huntington, and we're like, of course, everybody's got to use the bathroom. We pull over to this gas station, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen that movie with Train Spotting.
I love that movie.
And where the dirtiest
worst toilet in Scotland.
You know what I mean? So we go in, we open up, and we're like, "Can we get to the bathroom?" And the guy gives us the keys to the bathroom. We literally open the door. There's no toilet. There's like a hole in the ground. And we all are just like trying to. We all got to go. I feel like this, and like all of a sudden we're in this bathroom that looks like a horror movie, and there's like nowhere to go. We just laughed, and it was just like Taco Ninja all the way. It was
Taco. They assassinated your hunger, and then they assassinated.
It was delicious at the time.
They assassinated your bowels.
Well, there was I'm trying to think. Is it Greg Reardon played that? He like opened up that show. I don't know if you know Greg.
Oh, okay, yes. Now that you say that, now my buddies were in Faded 8, and then now that you say that, I do remember there was a first person.
Well, Greg, which is funny, he lives in north central West Virginia, so he reached out to me, and we're definitely in a circle of people that we played the same kind of venue sometimes, and we just kind of stayed in touch since then. So that was an interesting connection from that. You weren't intending to put together, but it worked out.
I love doing stuff like that. Anywhere near where we are, Carborough, Chapel Hill, Raleigh, if we can help you, man. DJ knows a lot of people in the music business.
I'm a man about town.
Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, my perspective's really changed a lot too. Like, I still want to do a lot of live shows in the area, but now, I mean, like having time. If I'm gonna do the kinds of shows I want to do, I want to make sure I'm playing my original art. I do have something I'm trying to get across to people. So some of the other cherry picking shows or the cover shows just to kind of pay the bills, man. I think, oh man, I'm beyond just thinking about it like that.
I think you're way beyond that. You're a troubadour, man, and we need you on the road. We need you performing because you're
sometimes whenever you do it, that's all the difference is. It's like you're already swimming, and and that's because I look at Beyonce. I usually compare my schedule to Beyonce's,
and we compare you to Beyonce as well.
That's how much I think of myself. I have to sit around comparing myself to Beyonce,
the most popular woman in the world. Yeah.
Why not me, man? I don't see any. And, it's not even a selfish thought. It's more of my grandfather. He was, like I said, a big influence, but he always goes, man, you just be yourself, man. You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I also read a book earlier this year. It has really helped me during this time off, and it's called The War of Art. Uh-huh. And it's written by the guy who wrote the book that The Legend of Bagger Vance was based off of.
The golf.
And he talks about his story kind of like embracing the creative side or the artistic side, and how when you do that, then the path is then revealed to you. Like opportunities that you didn't have before, then you get because you're doing it. And
that's amazing.
I've really tried to stay moving with forward trajectory, even through a mist of uncertainty. I kind of see it as like, if the playing field's leveled, then I'm going to run as fast as I can before it starts to get inclined again.
Yeah. Right. Hey, I love what you're doing. Your grandfather, the Gospelairs guy. Is there any recording of that? I'd love to play that.
Oh yeah, see, I'm going to release. I'm working on a remaster and a release of some of the music that he did. He passed away last November, right around Thanksgiving, and that was.
I'm sorry.
It was such the time that I spent with him, and the amount that he believed in my music definitely made me see it a little bit differently from being aspirational to understanding that I'm just an artist with this part of my journey versus where I was even with like the Excellent Lovers or with the Like Minds. And those experiences are definitely valid and part of my story that I was telling. That's what's really nice about now, and once I'm able to tour, now I'm not thinking, while yes, I'm writing new songs, it's like, well, hey man, I got all this other really awesome material that probably a lot of people haven't heard.
That'd be fun,
you can discover and you'll learn about me, and you can connect, and so I'm proud of my catalog versus like
you should be
trying to find myself in it. I see my growth in it, and that's where like kind of like the last album being like Appalachian soul, man. This is who I am. This is always who I've been. I've been a soul singer living in Appalachia, making music about where I'm from. My music is distinctly of this area, although it may have external influences. Also incorporating a lot of the things I've learned just by living my whole life pretty much in Appalachia. You can't escape that. And so, you lean into those experiences, and it's a beautiful place to be, and the people are kind, and a lot of our values are really perseverance and determination and relying on your ingenuity to create opportunity and taming one of the most rugged places on the planet, but it's also one of the most life-giving places. So if you can lean into those blessings, you can have a paradise. It's like wild and untamed and beautiful. And I think that's the experience,
Yeah. Where can people find you online?
You just go to AristotleJones.com. You can download my new album, Appalachian Soul Man. You can sign up for my mailing list. You can check out videos. And once we have tour dates, I'll have those posted up there as well.
I could talk to you all night. It was great having you on, but we do got to run, man. I really appreciate you coming on, Aristotle.
Hey, we'll see you guys at the show, and I'm definitely coming to North Carolina, so you'll get an email from me.
All right, brother.
Sweet. Looking
Take care.
forward to it. Take care.
Just one last thought.
Real
The
quick.
more love we put into the world, the more love there is in the world. So let's fill the world with love.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
I'm a man that's on a simple mission. I'm just looking for the right kind of love. If you want it, baby, come and get it, 'cause what I'm giving is the right kind of love. And if for some reason you change your mind in the middle of it all, just remember that the long cold winter melts to the spring and summer leaves for the fall. I'm a man that's on a simple mission. I'm just looking for the right kind of